I certainly know I'm excited because it is time for the first TVT of the night, duking it out on NASL Crevasse. And I think, like many of the casters have said beforehand, this map has not really been played by many of these players for quite some time.
Yeah, it's one of those. Sorry to interrupt there, but it's one of those maps that it was in a lot of tournaments really quickly and then kind of dropped off and everyone kind of forgot about it. But it is good to see these kind of maps re-emerge here and there because you can see not only crazy strategies, but players going up against stuff that they really haven't practiced against. So they have to think on their feet, and we will see if any crazy shenanigans happens here.
And to introduce our players, starting in the top left, from Team Evil Geniuses, the aggressive mastermind, EG's DeMusliM.
And in the bottom right side, we've already seen some Mouse players duke it out and having a lot of success in StarCraft 2. Make some noise for Mouse Thorzain. I feel like he brought some friends.
And look at that, right after his cheer, Thorzain's like, have fun, buddy. Starting out with the have fun. Interestingly, even I actually bet if we opened up the chat log, no good luck from Thorzain. Looks like he's understanding that in a tournament, you don't actually want your opponent to necessarily do well.
Yeah, you want them to have a lot of fun, but you don't want them to do well. It's always a fine balance there.
You lost, but wasn't that a great time?
And I don't know if it translates on camera, but they are actually in the same booth. And I was thinking in a tournament, maybe it'd be like extreme StarCrafting where they're slowly like cranking up the heat, slowly turning on fans that's blowing them in the face.
Release a herd of angry cats into the booth.
Yes, absolutely, and really have to focus on that. But again, this is the map with the early expand inside your main base. And look at what DeMusliM's doing.
Yeah, you know, this is the map I love to call the meta game map. With this structural formation, you have these backdoor rocks, or excuse me, this backdoor expansion with a small front entrance. So often, players will think, well, he probably isn't going to attack me early. Let me try to go for an early expansion. And conversely, a lot of players say, well, everyone seems to early expand on this map.
Right.
I'm going to attack right off the bat. But it looks like neither player going to mess around too much. Both just going to start off with that early macro, 2 expansions coming up.
Yeah, now really the only difference is Thorzain got his barracks first, while his opponent did not. And judging by this slight build order difference, do you think that DeMusliM's going to have a tiny bit of advantage here just because his expansion's earlier?
I mean, I do think DeMusliM will get a little bit of an edge in terms of minerals, but notice the big struggle DeMusliM has. He has no freaking clue what Thorzain's doing. Thorzain, of course, can push this back a little bit. Is going to help protect his front. I think just clearly in terms of the basic build order, a lot of people would say that DeMusliM does have a slight edge right now.
Now, it does look like Thorzain deciding not to scout at all. I mean, he is sending out that one Marine. I'm kind of curious if he is just going to sit by that watchtower rather than try and scout out. But it seems like he knows where his opponent is without even scouting. So maybe the angle that the SCV ran away is just giving him confidence as to where his opponent is.
Yeah, you know, that's one real advantage to getting that barracks first no matter what. You always can get a little bit of map control, and we see Thorzain seizing it very, very confidently. Thorzain now throwing down his 2 gas, still does have a second barracks en route. So we might see a little combo, half-C bio, half-C techie. Meanwhile, DeMusliM doing the same thing. I also think DeMusliM is somewhat forced down this path with all those aggressive openings. You kind of have to get 2 barracks worth of Marines.
And judging by the spawn locations, you have to remember that the expansions are not directly in the same, basically facing the same way. So that does mean that DeMusliM's expansion will be more vulnerable to drops, but it's also going to be a slightly shorter flight distance. And that's something that you really have to pay attention for, or look out for in TVT, because drop's going to be very, very common, a common threat there with either Hellions or the Marine and Marauder. Now we do see a 3rd Rax here out of Thorzain. Do you think he's still going to be sticking with bio here?
I actually definitely think that Thorzain not only is going to go bio, but is going to go absolutely bonkers with the bio. I think that he'll be likely going for just Marine for a lot of the early game. DeMusliM, as you can see, staying fairly balanced. We have 1 factory incoming. Looks like another barracks also coming up. So it looks like DeMusliM will eventually get all those reactors onto his barracks, but is mainly going for those medevacs quickly. Thorzain, on the other hand, has spent all his initial gas immediately getting add-ons, upgrades for his Marines, and he is just spamming that A button.
Indeed he is, and also one minor thing that players are doing, which is completely standard on this map, is to drop all your mules at that expansion. It does look like DeMusliM dropping one in the main base, but the majority of them have been out there because, again, those are a little bit harder to defend. They're kind of sticking out from your main base and are difficult to defend drops in that location, and they want to keep those minerals in the main base as long as possible, especially in a TVT where it can be long and drawn out, and on a map like this, there's so many other expansions that you can try and take. Just looking at the units tab here, I mean, it's looking pretty similar here.
Yeah, I mean, we can see 12 Marines and 10 Marines. My God, Thorzain pulling ahead by 2.
Oh,
I mean,
but will it be enough?
Well, you know, it's really interesting to actually look at the styles. I mean, Thorzain, we said slow and meticulous. First upgrade he gets for his Marine, the combat shield. DeMusliM, we describe as the aggressive player. First upgrades, he gets stim in combination with those medevacs. Would very much so anticipate DeMusliM to actually abandon his front door, leave nothing at the front, and value doing those stim medevac Marine drops.
They can be very potent, really in any matchup, and in TBT, that is no exception. There is one missile turret here from DeMusliM, but that's more to prevent any sort of Banshee harass. I mean, a medevac most likely isn't going to fly directly over that unless it is the most unlucky medevac ever. And again, the unit count's still fairly similar here, but the medevacs are just now starting to pop out, and the combat shields for DeMusliM are not on the way still.
Wow, look at the Marine count from Thorzain. Has 50%. Wow, now he has a mathematical percentage higher than his opponent that I can't even compute on the fly. He has 10 more. And it looks like both players are going for this hyper-mobile style. We see both of them also spending that early bit of gas, getting +1/+1 upgrades together. And I really think that that's one of the most important races in this game. Whoever can get to higher upgrades first. But man, look at the lockdown Thorzain has. He easily spots that drop, Husky.
He spotted both drops, the one on the left side getting spotted as well. That shows you the importance of these watchtowers. That's always a resource in StarCraft 2 that a lot of people forget about, is map vision, because that just saved him a lot of potential economic damage. Because both those drops, they got held off. So, I mean, DeMuslim's original attack did get defended, even if it was just with passive map vision. But it's not a huge loss for DeMusliM, but he just needs to realize that with no combat shields, the Red Marines are going to be pretty darn good.
Oh, and like you were saying, Husky, it looks like Thorzain taking advantage of those really close by air distances. He's moving right on up, and it looks like, oh no, DeMuslim's not going to have anything there to defend. He drops the Marines. He would normally get ready to stim, but it is almost done. Right now, he will take out that turret. It looks like both of the medevacs are still alive, so a retreat is definitely possible for Thorzain.
Siege mode not quite done for DeMusliM. He is seconds away from completing it. I think Thorzain realized that he is going to back out of there. May get one supply depot kill. No, DeMusliM too good for that. Is going to go ahead and clean that one up. We should see, is the center tower going to go back down? Nope, just missile turrets for now. So not huge losses there for either player, but he did delay a little bit of mining there.
Both players taking their third command center at about the same time, but we're starting to see what happens when you get those reactors late in the way DeMusliM did. We see Thorzain already pulling ahead in the food count, in that unit count. 44 Marines for Thorzain to 29 for DeMusliM.
Just has to be careful for the siege tank splash damage, as it can end a Marine's life quite quickly, destroying these rocks, shortening the rush distance between these two players. DeMuslim's going to spot that. He's also busting it down as well. He needs to make sure to siege up here. Doesn't get vision, and he does get there at the last second. Not able to kill too much. It looks like DeMuslim's going to go for it, and then backs out there, showing you the good control here that both these players have.
Yeah, Thorzain almost lost this one medevac that would have cut his army in half, but now he might fly directly into a turret, and it's taken some hits, but he does manage to find a little hole that he can sneak his Marines right on into, now taking out a lot of these depots. Marines in a limbo line. We see some tanks sieging up on the low ground, but it looks like Thorzain manages to slip out without taking too much damage.
You know, this is actually a really intense game. Their upgrades are at about the same timing. Their siege tank units, unit counting station shows about the same. Really, DeMuslim's just behind in the amount of Marines, but he does have that combat shield now. His command center finishes up just a second before the one for Thorzain lands, so you can just tell that they're playing at almost identical the same level.
I will agree with the audience that one Marine's death was totally kick-ass. And meanwhile, in the right position, we do see a planetary fortress from Thorzain. That seems a little unnecessary. Let's see what DeMusliM does. I would very much so anticipate an orbital command.
It's just sitting there for now, but if he can get up in orbital, that does mean more energy for those mules, and that will be a huge benefit to him. And did he lose another Marine? So if he does this how many more times? 57 more times, then he'll be out of Marines.
Well, it's like one of those primary school tests where you want to double-check your answers. It looks like tanks, we've confirmed twice, are here.
That is
good.
We'll
see if he scans again.
Showing his work indeed. I love this tank on the high ground right here. I don't know if you can get a spot of it here. up here, but the positioning of that's so good. DeMuslim's running directly
Oh,
into
no!
it, taking huge hits. I don't think he
DeMuslim!
realizes it's on the high ground, and the DeMuslim Marines have evaporated and leaving only 36 to his opponent's 59.
Yeah, I mean, Thorzain almost doubling DeMuslim in that Marine count, but keep in mind, tanks are huge deciding factors in this game. The tank lead does slightly go to Thorzain. Looks like Marines are going to try to sneak up and pick this one tank off, and great positioning there by DeMuslim, and it's kind of funny to see the role reversal here. DeMuslim normally the one on the aggressive footing, but Thorzain now the one really stepping into the lead, and ooh, takes some huge hits, but man, just to clean these tanks up.
Yeah, he traded one tank there for two. Completely worth it on that end, and now this game's going to start getting very, very tense. I mean, we have a forward sensor tower that is literally scouting the base inside the main there of DeMuslim, means that no drops can go that way, and he also knows that he's mining there, so that's useful right there. But the upgrades now going to be tied 1-1, but we do have siege weapons level 1 on the way here for Thorzain.
I can't believe Thorzain forgot about the +2 armor. If DeMuslim does get ahead in the upgrades, then DeMuslim will almost certainly be able to outmuscle Thorzain in the late game. Right now, Thorzain's ace in the hole is this positioning that he has. He controls the watchtower, he can position tanks up here, and right now DeMuslim has to battle uphill with all his Marines.
Yeah, and that's something that is not going to be pretty with these siege tanks being protected by the wall. And since Thorzain knows that, Sean, you're mentioning it's kind of his trap card here, is that he can also expand on the back of this. So even if he has to back out in a defensive position, he at least has that expansion to fall back on. We do have a drop up here on the right side, trying to drop that location. One poor schmuck gets dropped on the low ground. He's going to get cleaned up, and these units are going to try and go for some SCV kills. We'll see if he can make something happen.
Yeah, it looks like he's pulling a lot of these units back so far. This drop's going so good, and this is his chance. Oh, he's target firing the engineering bay. The perfect choice for Thorzain. He'll be able to leap very far ahead. He's ripping apart the backdoor expansion as well. One engineering bay falls, but it looks like the second one will stay alive, and Thorzain jumps into a huge lead.
Yeah. No, these 4 Marines are still alive. I don't know if you know this, Sean, but Marines healed by medevacs, or the SCVs healed by medevacs, are not good enough to kill off the Marines. Finally getting cleaned up there by that siege tank. And now Thorzain has positioned himself dangerously close to his opponent, even dropping 2 siege tanks right here to tuck them away in the corner. The clock is ticking here for DeMuslim to try and clean this out.
Boa Constrictor play by Thorzain, just squeezing DeMuslim until he runs out of air. There it looks like a small handful of Marines running through. Thorzain with incredible macro, 90 Marines, and here comes DeMuslim for the huge breakthrough attempt, and it looks like he might be able to do some damage, but he has to pick off those tanks. All the Marines up on the high ground doing massive damage, and DeMuslim pulls a miracle. How did he break through that? And now Thorzain is the one taking massive losses to those tanks.
Yeah, with a huge swell of tanks there, able to get them at the last possible second. And you got to remember that the sensor towers for Thorzain are basically locking down any potential for drops, and DeMuslim has no sensor tower of his own. He has been trying to set them up, but they keep getting cleaned out. The +1 attack for his tanks nearly done, while Thorzain already has that +1, and it looks like DeMuslim trying to make a move here, but you got to remember he is behind an expo.
Oh, and it looks like he's stimming and going for it. It looks like the tanks are a little bit too far placed back, and oh no, Thorzain in a terrible engagement. Thorzain has all his Marines cleaned up.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Thorzain with a tremendous blunder. The slow, meticulous play with a single misstep has now equalized the game.
Equalized it indeed. I felt like DeMuslim casted Firewall there. If you've ever played Diablo 2, he literally focused down those Marines perfectly.
Oh.
But is this going to be the right move? He's trying to move up the ramp here. His siege tanks are now siege. He does have vision of the ones over here, but can he do it? A lot of Marines run into their death.
Oh no, this is going to be probably a stale exchange, but right now DeMuslim is delighted to have secured enough room to take this expansion, but that lead DeMuslim had just moments ago has fallen back into Thorzain's favor. DeMuslim able to produce, looks like 11 Marines at a time, whereas Thorzain's 15 Marine production. Look at how many barracks he has. That is a lot. He just has a lot of everything that can build things, Husky.
Which is always a good strategy in StarCraft 2. And you got to remember that expansion has been up and running for a while, so DeMuslim has to be cost effective here. He's going to try by cleaning out these tanks. Can he do it? He gets 1, he gets 2, and then backs out, but he did take a lot of damage. The supply is starting to favor Thorzain higher and higher here, and he's continuing to produce more units non-stop. His upgrade's looking good as well. He has +3 attack and that +2 armor nearly completed, which is going to make him look in much better shape here moving forward.
Thorzain trying to step up, sprint to kill off those tanks, just has a few sacrificial Marines. And it's kind of weird to see DeMuslim's Marines have 2 armor and 1 attack. That's like a really beefy guy with a, like a paper cutter just coming at you.
Yeah.
Normally you see these really beefy Marines from Thorzain. Look at that. The 3-2 upgrade's about to finish. Perfect incision by Thorzain, breaking right behind that defensive line of DeMusliM, sieging up. DeMusliM is going to have to pull a miracle to defend.
And with the 4-day supply of scraps, we don't know if that's going to happen. Right now we do see the SCVs getting pulled off the line, taking so much damage. Those SCVs are going to be no longer in existence. And you got to remember that the expansion for DeMusliM still isn't up. And there's the good game
game
from DeMusliM.